Today I want to talk to you about all of those pyrography pens out there and what to look for when you are choosing what to buy for burning gourds. This is primarily a gourd-centric review. What works for wood may not work as well on a gourd, and I want to talk a little bit about that today. The first type of pen that I want to talk to you about is what's most popular for gourd pyrographers, and that is one is designed to use in a transformer like this one. And there's a lot of different brands on the market, and I am not here to endorse any particular brand. This is just what I have, so that is what I'm going to show you. So as you see, this has a dial in the center, which is the temperature control, and these are two pens, and they have a jack that goes into each of this holds two pens. Some of them hold one, and they fit in here like this. Now these are two different brands of pen, and neither one of them are the brand that are supposed to go with this one, but what I like about this and many others, you can interchange these. You can get all kinds of adapters to fit into different kinds of units. Find when you are looking for pyrography pens is a lot of brands will carry two different kinds of pens, and one is a fixed tip pen like these, where the tip is in there, it's not going to come out. And there's also another one that is called a replaceable tip, now which I don't have my pen holder. I would show that to you, but I cannot find it anywhere. But I still have a couple of these replaceable tips from my very first wood burning unit that I bought when I upgraded from this kind, which I will be talking about last. So the idea with this is that you could interchange your tips with one handpiece. These would pull out and then you could put one in. The problem I had with the one that I had in particular was that the connection with these prongs into the handpiece, after taking it in and out multiple times, the connection became very weak. And what I ended up with was a very hot handpiece and a very cool tip. So I would have to keep turning the heat up in order to get anything coming out of this. And this would get so hot I couldn't even hold it, no matter how many pieces of foam and tape that I wrapped around it. So my suggestion, if you are looking for to buy your brand new at pyrography and you want to start with these kind of pens, my suggestion is to look for one with a fixed tip. Attraction to getting the replaceable tip ones is that it does seem like you're getting a better deal where you're just buying the one hand piece and then you can buy a lot of these little tips for a lot less money. But really, most of these tips you're not even going to use. So my suggestion really is to spend a little bit more on the outset and get two really good fixed tip pens. Here's an example of some of the different kinds of shapes that you can purchase. To be perfectly honest with you, you don't need that many. I really favor two pens. I own more pens because over time I thought I wanted to try different kinds and see how they worked, but really I keep going back to my same favorites. This is one of them. This is a spear tip or a spade tip, depending on the manufacturer. Hopefully you can see that nice and clear. What I like about this one is it is the same on both sides, and it's nice and sharp on the edges, and it gives me a nice clean line like this outer line here. It gives a nice clean line when you use it on its side. Also, it can be used as a shader. If you only wanted to invest in one pen, you could use this as a shader too. You just have to hold it a little bit flatter, and you can use that flat edge to get some shading. However, if you find that you're going to be doing a lot of shading in your work, I would invest in a pen that is especially for shading. And What I love about these is it is essentially the same shape as the spear or spade tip. The only difference is that it's bent, which makes it a little more comfortable to hold. You don't have to hold it flat like this. You can hold it up and comfortably. Which size you want to go with is entirely up to you. I do have one here that is made for detail, but really this, the largest one I have, works very well for detail as well because it has a nice point on the end. So a lot of times it depends on how you use the tool. Are you able, and I'm sure you are, to hold the pen in different directions? See, if I'm holding it like this, I'm only, well, let's move that down a little bit. If I hold it like this, I'm only touching with the very, I don't know, how well can you see that? I hope you can see that. I'm only touching the gourd with this very tip, and you can even see how that's worn. You see that little line right there on the tip? That's where it's worn off, and that is the part that I am burning with. I'm not really burning with all this part back here. Another pen that's very popular is the ball tip pen or a writing tip pen. What's nice about these is that you can kind of scribble in any direction. They're nice for filling in really dark areas, like this area here is very dark, and that's, I would have used a ball tip to color that in. They're nice for stippling or doing pointillism with, which is can be a really nice effect. A lot of people like to just kind of use it as a color, just to color it in, and you can get some really nice effects with it, some nice gradations of color. Again, the size really depends on the type of work you want to do and how you burn. The only thing you need to watch out for, like say this pen right here, is a very nice pen, but it's very, very fine. And if you're a person who likes to burn on a very high heat, this kind of a pen would not be right for you because it would bend. Now, if you like to burn on a cool heat, it would be perfect for you. So that's entirely up to you. Some of how to choose what pen that you want is a little bit of trial and error. And the more you practice with what you have, the more you'll be able to tell how to make a good decision, which is why I can't stress enough, start out with one or two. Don't go out and buy every single pen that's on the market. Really, most of them do not work very well on gourds. Now, if you're a wood burner, it might be a different story. But we're just talking about gourds today. So I'm going to talk about which ones I found do not work very well on gourds. And that would be one like this. This is a chisel. I bought this because I thought it would be neat to do a little bit of calligraphy work on a gourd. And yeah, it works great on a piece of flat wood, but on a curved gourd, the chisel itself never really makes a full connection on that curved surface. So you're only getting maybe 3/4 of the pen touching the surface at a time, no matter what you do. So I would suggest if you are a wood burner, these are very nice, but if you're a gourd burner, it's going to frustrate you. Okay, why am I holding a spoon? Well, because I do not have a spoon shader, but I do want to at least show you or demonstrate why a spoon shader is not good for gourds. There's a lot of people that really like spoon shaders for wood burning, flat pieces, but for a gourd, same reason as the chisel, really, you're talking about, with this is even worse, you have two convex objects going together, and you're not going to get a good connection between a spoon curving this way and a gourd curving this way. It's just not going to give you what you want. But by all means, if you think you want to try it out, go right ahead. But for what I have seen of my students that have purchased a spoon shader, they all were very frustrated with them. It just did not perform well on a gourd. Okay, things I like about certain pens. Now again, I really don't want to endorse any particular brand, But there are certain things that you may want to look at or at least just think about as far as pros and cons. Now, the things that I personally like is a sturdy metal nib. So one like this tip is nice and sturdy. This one is a bit finer, but it is meant for finer work. It has worn down on me a lot faster than this one. I use them both equally as much. And I love this tip, but it has worn down a bit that I need to replace it. A comfortable handpiece is something else you want to look for. And if you just look at all of these and compare them, there's very little difference. Some are a bit thinner. This has a very thin handpiece, but the grips are nice. The foam grips I like. The cork grip is also very nice. And I really love this pen. It doesn't work anymore, but I hang on to it. This is a Detail Master. Um, I liked everything about it. I liked the shape of it. I liked the sturdiness of it. I liked these grips down here, and I could hold this very close, and it still, the heat went right to the tip, never got hot on my fingers. Sadly, though, this company is no longer in business, but I kind of compare everything back to this one. I like the size of this one. It is a little bit wider than all the other ones on the market. I think this one's a little bit wider too, but that's just a personal preference. Some people are going to like a very thick pen handle, and some are going to like a thinner one. That is very personal and just something that you want to keep in mind when you are shopping around. Low carbon buildup. Most of these pens do not build up carbon that quickly, with the exception of the ball tips. I don't know why, but for some reason I am cleaning these way more often than the other pens. Now, it's not that I'm saying don't go out and get one of these. I mean, I have two of them. I will get another one at some point as this one starts to wear down more. I do like them a lot, but it is something that I don't like about this pen is that I find that I have to clean it so very often. Again, it's not a game changer for me. I still like this kind of a pen, but it's just something that I found that is very consistent with this style of tip, that it does build up the carbon very quickly. One other thing you want to look for when you are shopping around, and you can find out from the manufacturer, or if you have a vendor that you're going to, you can ask them, are the tips polished? And some of the manufacturers offer them polished and unpolished. I think Colwood offers them polished and unpolished, and if you have the choice, get them polished. The polishing does reduce drag. I think it also helps the tip last longer, and it just performs a lot better. If you can try before you buy, then do. If you're able to go to a gourd show or a wood carving show, I mean, I know right now with the current situation, that might be a while. If you order online, if you look for a smaller business where you can ask questions and actually get answers from a real human, find out what their exchange policy is. Ask them, can I exchange a pen that maybe I bought this pen and I used it for 2 weeks and I found it's really not for me? Could you exchange it for a different one? What is that policy? I think many of them are willing to work with you and help you out in that way. Lastly, this is a popular wood burning tool that you may already have. It's also a soldering iron. If you buy one of these kits, it does come with some soldering material, and it comes with a lot of different little tips that you can play around with. What I find is kind of fun are these little stamps that you can put in and stamp. It is a tip that screws in and out, so it's threaded in there, so you do have to be careful not to mess up the threads, especially if the pen is still warm. What's good about this pen is that they are readily available. You can get them in most craft stores, and they're not very expensive. There are many professional pyrographers that get very good results with these kind of pens. Actually, this is what I started with when I first began burning. I think I used this type of burner for about a year or so before I upgraded. Some cons about this is they do take a longer time to heat up initially and to cool down. You do want this to cool down before you change the tips. And I found that some tips just work better than others. I like these rounded tips. They work nice just for maybe doing some scribbling and shading. I found it to be a little bit awkward to hold. It's kind of heavy here, and this particular one does have a temperature control. The temperature control is not as sensitive as, say, a transformer. But what I don't like about this particular one is that the temperature control, if you can see, is where it's located on the cord. It kind of pulls down, so it's pulling down here and it's pulling down here, and I just find that awkward. Maybe that won't bother you, but it does bother me. I found that the heat recovery that we talked about earlier is inconsistent on this. The recovery is slow. So again, what I mean by that is this will heat up very hot, and as you put it down, it'll sizzle right on the gourd, and then it'll cool down right away, and it'll take a little bit before that heat comes back and actually starts doing its work. So it does take a little bit of getting used to. Not that it can't be worked with, but it does take a little bit of figuring out how to work with this kind of a pen. Also, something to think about is when this is heated up, all of these metal parts get hot. So if you're working and you can make a mark with this part, now that would be kind of weird. You wouldn't really pull it back that far, but often I found people will touch this part against the gourd. And it's very easy to do that because if I'm holding this at a comfortable angle, I will hit that. Can you see how I'm hitting that right there? And then you get this unwanted mark just below where you were working, and that is incredibly frustrating. So that is something you just have to be very aware of when you are working with a pen like this, that you always have to have it up. So the reason why I'm reviewing this particular pen is that many of you may already have it, or if you only want to spend a little bit just to get started, I do think this is a good way to get started. It is worth giving a try. Like I said, I did use one of these for about a year or so before I upgraded, and it didn't make me not like burning anymore. It made me want to continue burning and to see what else I could do. So if you keep some of those things in mind as you work with a pen like this, you can get good results with it. And I've seen some artists get some phenomenal burning results with these kind of pens. Okay, I think that's about all for now. A quick recap. Opt for one or two fixed tipped pens. Your burning technique will dictate the best pen for you. So the more you practice with one pen, the more you will know what other kind of pens you want to add to your collection. Try before you buy if you can. And consider the pros and cons of these cheaper wood burning pens if you're on a tight budget. My next upcoming videos will explore my top pen shapes and how I use them, so stay tuned for that. I sure hope this video was helpful to you. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you would like to see more, subscribe and tap that little bell to be notified when there's a new video. Leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. And if you have questions, I will try to answer them in a future video. Lastly, my website is jragourdart.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, read my blog, learn more about gourd art, and even purchase my art in my online store. You can also follow me on Instagram at Jen Avery Gourd Art. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching.